All right, hello everyone, and welcome to this week in the soundtrack. We are talking the music supervisor, and the music supervisor is a very important part of music for television and film. And I had you read a chapter 18 in Palmgrave, that is an interview with Brian Reitzell. Brian is a music supervisor and also a composer himself. He has composed music for Hannibal, for the TV show Hannibal, along with the movie 30 Days of Night, and I believe also the video game Watchdog. So he is a musician, he's a composer, but he's also a music supervisor for several of Sofia Coppola's films. So Marie Antoinette, Bling Ring, Virgin Suicides, Lost in Translation. I believe pretty much everything. The only, I think, film he didn't do music supervision was Somewhere. So we have the interview with him and him explaining a little bit of his job, and then I also have some additional information for you on what is a supervisor, a music supervisor, and a video that's a really great round table about what is a supervisor, and then some clips from some of the Sofia Coppola films, some of the things that are mentioned in the essay, and then I also have Randall Poster, and he is also an important music supervisor. You might recall, if you actually did read part of my dissertation, that he has worked with Wes Anderson on all of Anderson's films and even done music supervision for Anderson's commercial work. Yes, Anderson has also done some advertising. And but Randall Poster has also worked with Martin Scorsese, like on the TV show Vinyl, and also Boardwalk Empire. Also worked with Todd Haynes and Velvet Goldmine, and Todd Phillips and Joker, which Hildur Gutendaughter, you all experienced last week. Randall Poster not only worked with her, but also got the songs for Joker. So I have a few examples of some of his work as well. So I'm going to start off with discussing what is a music supervisor. And I have 3 articles for you to use. They're web links. And you have one from the masterclass. And the masterclass is a whole series that a lot of times you actually have people within the field giving a masterclass on what they're the expert in. But masterclass has a free article on what is a music supervisor. And this whole concept of knowing what a music supervisor is they're, in a nutshell, they are very key in getting the musical aspect of the film or television show to work narratively, or even non-narratively, but for the most part, working with the music. And they work creatively, not only in the finding the right music to use, and even sometimes working with the right musicians that might be composing, performing on screen, and discussing what the music in a film or television show should sound like with the director or whoever is producing the production. And they also are in charge of some not so fun aspects. So it's more than just listening to music all day long. It's more than just, going through, their CD collection or going on Spotify and finding out what they want to do. Uh, they are responsible for also getting the licenses and the permissions to actually use the music for film. So they have to work this out, and this is an important part of the process. So there's a creative side to it, and there's also a managerial and financial side to it. So it's both business and creative. So the masterclass talks about how some of their responsibilities is to meet with the director and the producer. Some of them is to spot the visual media, and so think about what they want to do musically in that section. So it could be anything from what is the music for the opening and closing credits, what is the music in certain aspects of the film or television show. Also select, negotiate, and license the music, and then ensure royalties are distributed. Some of the skills: wide knowledge of music and music history, the understanding of licensing and creative rights, and also having a great knowledge of people skills. Now, I have a long video. It's about 50 minutes long, and it is entitled "Get Your Music in TV, Film, and Video Games with Music Supervisors," even though it doesn't tell you how you can do that. It is a music supervisor roundtable, and you've got a lot of key music supervisors working in television today and talking about what their job is. And one of the music supervisors that has been in the business for about 20 years, she has worked on TV shows like Smallville, Alias, Felicity, One Tree Hill. She's currently working on Batwoman. Her name is Madonna Wade Reed. And at the very beginning of the video, she talks about how she wishes she had the Guild of Supervisors description of the role of a music supervisor. Well, I have given you a link to that, and basically the definition of a music supervisor is a qualified professional who oversees all music-related aspects of film, television, advertising, video games, and any other existing or emerging visual media platforms as required. And then it also goes into a little bit more detail on what their roles are. But for the most part, it is a creation, or it is a combination of creative, technical, and management expertise is important for a music supervisor. And so some of their responsibilities include, but are not limited to, identify, secure, and collaborate with any and all music-related talent, which includes composers, songwriters, recording artists, on-camera performers, musicians, orchestrators, arrangers, copyists, contractors, music producers, engineers, etc. Liaise and negotiate with talent representation, including legal, label, talent management, agency, business management, etc. Number 2, liaise and effectively communicate with other related involved professionals and support staff, i.e. directorial, production, editorial, sound, the production and post, camera, choreography, studio and network executives, advertising agencies, clients, label executives, game designers, distributors, and cross-promotional marketing partners. 3, possess and accurate knowledge of all costs associated with delivery of music elements, determine and advise on financial needs of project, and generate realistic budgets with respect to all music-related costs, deliver all required musical elements within the established budgetary parameters. 4, advise on feasibility of schedule based on release, broadcast, campaign or product or delivery, deliver all musical elements consistent with specific technological requirements, manage and or secure legal rights of new and existing recordings, clearances of synchronization and master use licensing of pre-existing music, credits, cue sheets, etc. within the scheduling parameters. And then finally, determine the viability of creation of and securing exposure or distribution of any music-related ancillary products, i.e. soundtrack, single, video, internet downloads, etc. for the purpose of promotion or additional revenue streams. Yeah, that was a mouthful, but you can read that. And for the most part, a music supervisor is more than just picking out hip songs. It is working with all aspects of the musical area, making sure that it's licensed, making sure that the proper owners of the music get paid, and basically dealing with any sort of legalities as it pertains to the music. Also, if an album is released, then, you know, working out with that. So that's another thing you might realize, is that when you watch certain films and television shows, not all of the songs that are featured, or even in a soundtrack album too, that's just all the score, not every song sometimes appears on the soundtrack album, soundtrack CD, via download, playlist, that sort of thing. So this is an additional thing that is brought about. I also have the Berklee College of Music has a link to what does a music supervisor for film, TV, and video games do. And the Berklee School or College of Music, they have several jobs in the music industry as it pertains to composing and also within the music business. And so it discussed a possible career path at Berklee of being a music supervisor. And so it does go into how certain things, especially in the business aspect, on how to use pre-existing music through, you know, discussing things with licensing representatives, labels, music publishers, artists, and songwriters. Also working with the director and the composer and music editor, and for the most part, just you know, some of these things that, yes, this is something that you could do, and it's being taken more and more seriously. So I do have that for you. Now, the first video I have for you in here is the 50-minute long get your music and TV, film, and video games with the music supervisors. This is actually a roundtable with 4 major supervisors within the TV industry right now, but they've all worked in film as well. Barry Cole currently works on the TV show The Chi. Jen Malone, who for the most part got her start in reality TV, has worked on the HBO show Euphoria. Morgan Rhodes currently works on the TV show Dear White People. And Madonna Wade Reed, who has been in the business the longest, I already mentioned she has done Smallville, Alias, Felicity, One Tree Hill, but she also is currently working on the show Batwoman. And all of them discuss the evolution of the music supervisor job. So they talk about what they did, or how they prepared themselves for their job. And they also discuss some of the songs that they've placed in their shows, and they are pretty exciting. So Jen Malone talks about the excitement of using Megan the Stallion instead of Cardi B. And one of the things that you'll notice in all of this, well, hey, hey, that hurts. See him? He's a troublemaker. Okay. So is that a lot of hip hop songs can be difficult to license for film and television. And one of the reasons for this, especially some of the older ones, is a lot of the sampling weren't properly licensed when the music first came out. So classic De La Soul isn't really used in film and television today because of the difficulty of getting all of the licensing for that. Also, many songs have multiple people that are involved, and they haven't really quite figured out like who actually owns what, and so it becomes a very long and entailed process, especially with a lot of contemporary hip hop. So sometimes that can be very difficult. But so I have, and it's something that is discussed definitely by Randall Poster and by Brian Reitzell. Reitzell discusses it in the article, how he had a hard time with Bling Ring. But you will find that there are some happy accidents, and how the music supervisors here really pride themselves on utilizing independent artists. So especially ones that could really use being noticed, and so they pride themselves on also being kind of like tastemakers and in discovering music before it becomes necessarily extremely popular. So again, this is a 50-minute long video, so you can either pause here and start watching it now, or you can come back to it. But I do really recommend that you check this video out. I think it's really really important on giving you an idea of what a music supervisor does, and also these are some of the key people in the industry, and they also don't have the luxury typically working on a television show, they have to constantly be working, versus in a film where you might have a little bit more time. So if you're going to watch it now, check it out. All right, the next section is on Brian Reitzell, and it's called Brian Reitzell and Sofia Coppola. And Reitzell is part of our chapter 18. And one of the things that you may have gathered in the readings is how he has been the music supervisor for most of Sofia Coppola's films. And so I have some of them right here: Marie Antoinette, Bling Ring, The Virgin Suicides, Lost in Translation. And how he is also a composer himself. So he's contributed some of the original pieces to these films, in addition to some of the original music, or composing original music for the TV show Hannibal. One of the things I do want to point out is kind of like the little mistake. I feel like they really needed to put an asterisk in the interview just to correct. So Brian Reitzell mentions that he thanks Francis Ford Coppola, Sofia's dad, in his groundbreaking work in sound, and basically opening up the door for music supervision. So Francis Ford Coppola is instrumental in opening up the door to sound editor, and this is definitely Walter Murch. And this really started with Apocalypse Now, though there are elements of this in the conversation. But and while he talks about Apocalypse Now, he also mentions American Graffiti. And American Graffiti was directed by our favorite Star Wars creator. Yeah, George Lucas. George Lucas did American Graffiti. And American Graffiti really opens the door to a jukebox musical type of more contemporary film. It's wall-to-wall music in American Graffiti. So I just want to make sure that I pointed that out. So I have a video on Brian Reitzell where he is talking about doing the composition for the TV show American Gods, but he also talks about being a music supervisor as well, and also with some of the song choices, not only in that television show, but also working with Sofia Coppola and the like. So I do have that video. It's about 15 minutes long, 16 minutes long, so I want you to check that out right now. So that gives you a little taste of Brian himself as he's talking about not only composition, but also a little bit about music supervision. And as now you know, is that a music supervisor works with the composer a lot, though in this case, with American Gods especially, and with many of the Sofia Coppola pictures, not only did he work with the composer, he also composed music himself. So while most of the interview talks about the use of music in Marie Antoinette, I wanted to give you a few examples. So we got Marie Antoinette right here. And so we've got a couple scenes. The first one that I have is called the shopping scene, and it features Bow Wow Wow and the song I Want Candy. So as you watch this, it definitely features a candy-colored, candy-colored shoes, and the use of costumes, and even the food that is used is all kind of candy-like. And this also is very much like the excesses of a teenage girl, though in this case it is Marie Antoinette. So check out this scene featuring Bow Wow Wow. Another thing to note about this Bow Wow Wow track is that it was also produced by Kevin Shields. And Kevin Shields was discussed for Lost in Translation. And that was the film before Marie Antoinette, and I'll get to Lost in Translation in a moment. So the next scene I have is Marie Antoinette and the ball party. And one of the things that's kind of fun about this sequence is that we actually have like a period specific costume masquerade ball, but we are featuring Susie and the Banshees' Hong Kong Garden. And we've got like the strings at the beginning that, unless you're familiar with the song, you might be like, oh, okay, we've got strings going on. And then all of a sudden, the music and the twirling, so the choreography of the scene works, but then there's this movement that almost as if like you're at a concert, the way that Kirsten Dunst's Marie Antoinette is dancing at a certain point, it kind of matches the mood of the song. So, and if you haven't gathered already, the music is not period specific music most of the case in Marie Antoinette. But it is supposed to play with this whole idea of many of the themes in many of Sofia Coppola's films is this excitement of being a girl, and especially in this case, you know, having fun at a party. So check out this scene. And our next scene, I should have started with this one because it gives you the logic of the film and kind of this sort of post-punk kind of aesthetic that we definitely have for the music, and the opening credits of the film, which has, though, a darker pink color, is very like punk rock in you know, in its presentation. We do get this moment of Marie Antoinette's character lounging and facing the camera. And so we do have Gang of Four's Naturals. Oh my gosh, why am I totally flaking on it? The power of leisure. Natural's not in it. I don't know why. So, which is a song that definitely comments on the leisure class and excesses and you know, and that sort of thing. So this is definitely a tongue-in-cheek moment as well, because it plays on the famous "Let Them Eat Cake," and also Kirsten Dunst does look at the camera. She, you know, she eats the food and then she does this sort of, you know, look. So this kind of starts off the aesthetic of the film. So here you go. The opening credits of Marie Antoinette. So, Lost in Translation is another one that that uses music quite wonderfully, and it does feature some original pieces by Kevin Shields, who is from the band My Bloody Valentine. But the area that is probably talked about the most is probably, you know, the karaoke sequence. And Reitzell discusses this, and especially how most of the songs that are featured in the karaoke sequence, they already had picked out and had license and knew, okay, this is going to be part of the karaoke. But all of a sudden, here comes Bill Murray, and he does his own version, totally not part, you know, totally not really planned. And he does his version of Roxy Music, More Than This. And so this is also one of the sequences that, you know, kind of like a nice happy accident, and it works. On the soundtrack CD, this piece is a bonus track. It's a hidden track at the very end of the CD. So you think it's over. You think the last song, which is Jesus and Mary Chain Just Like Honey, but then all of a sudden it goes to More Than This. I don't think, let me see. Yeah, I don't think the vinyl version features this. And yeah, I just want to show you, look how pretty that is. Oh my god, it's so gorgeous. Okay. So let's see. 7, 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7. Nope. So it's a wonderful little track. And, well, you get to listen to it right now. So here is the karaoke sequence that also features some more music. I'm trying to think. I don't think it's the Phoenix song. it's probably the happy end song, but they're having a wild night in Japan, in Tokyo, and so they go to a party, but they eventually end up doing karaoke. So check out their wild night in Tokyo. More than this, sorry. There is nothing more than this. All right. And it's kind of nice that I have the clips kind of go from the wild night and then it's the next scene. But the next one is My Bloody Valentine sometimes. And My Bloody Valentine, again, Kevin Shields, that's his band. And so this is one of the few tracks that weren't original by Kevin Shields. But it is a beautiful moment of drift. If you watch several of Sofia Coppola's films, and I could have shown you another one from Marie Antoinette, they have characters that are looking out of windows, and in particular looking out of whether it's cars or in the case of Marie Antoinette, a carriage, where they're caught, looking. And so in this case, it's after this wild night, they're in Tokyo, and this piece of music just seems to fit their kind of still jet-lagged dreaminess, tired, still excitement of the city, and gives you a kind of sense of some of the other pieces that Kevin Shields provided for the soundtrack. So check that out. And yeah, I'm a My Bloody Valentine nerd, so that's another reason why I chose that. All right, Virgin Suicides. So Reitzell goes into great detail about how in the Virgin Suicides, many of the songs actually are needle drops, meaning that the characters are actually playing them actually in the film. In this case on record, or it's playing on the radio. But Heart, the two songs by Heart, kind of scores the character that's played by Josh Arnett. And so we have Magic Man and Crazy on You. And though it still has the sound of vinyl, these are just meant to score how Josh Hartnett's character is, he is trouble with the ladies. The ladies love him, and for the most part, this is going to be the downfall of, oh my gosh, of Kirsten Dunst's character. And I don't know why I totally flaked on her character's name. Yeah. Just get rid of me. But yeah, so oops. So check out this scene, or these two scenes, featuring Josh Hartnett and using Heart, both Magic Man and Crazy on You. All right, so the final scene that I have from the Virgin Suicides is the Call Us scene. And this scene is the one that features several songs where they're playing music back and forth to each other. So, they're playing the "Hello, it's me," and also "Alone Again Naturally" by Gilbert O'Sullivan. Got some Todd Rundgren in there. And so this is the sequence where the girls are now, they're trapped in their house. They're not allowed out. But the neighborhood boys figured out how is the best way to communicate with them, and they start playing music. And so they start playing their records, and so they're not really talking to one another. They're using these songs in order to communicate. So we have this, you know, both fun and eventually tragic scene for the virgin suicides. So check out how songs are used in this sequence. Now, one of the things that Brian Reitzell discussed that was difficult for him was doing the being the music supervisor for the Bling Ring, and one of his difficulties was that, especially using hip hop, can be difficult, and also some of the music that was used was very much a part of the time and the culture, is something that some of the suggestions, some of the music was just stuff that Brian Reitzell wasn't really too into. And so the Avicii level scene is one of those. And one of the ways that he thought it sounded too much like the Hills, Laguna Beach, and many of the things that were going on at that time. It seemed too popular. But he knew that there was a slow motion sequence, and he slowed down the music. And so here is that sequence from the Bling Ring, that we have the use of the song, but how it's slowed down a little bit so that it matches kind of the slow motion as we capture them partying that night. And then the final clip that I have in this section on Brian Reitzell and the Bling Ring is the Bling Ring Let's Go Shopping sequence, and it's at the very beginning of the film, and it's a lot like the Marie Antoinette I Want Candy, but in this case it is using Sleigh Bells, Crown on the Ground. And I think it's an appropriate song, especially since these girls, and the one guy, they want to be part of this type of celebrity, and especially part of it is this stuff, and so it's almost like being close to royalty, but at the same time, a lot of this fashion and a lot of this stuff is very disposable. So it's kind of funny how, Crown on the Ground plays, and I think it's pretty perfect. But the scene and the music, has a lot of the same vibe, same feel as the I Want Candy sequence in Marie Antoinette. So check this out. So I will tell you, the other day when I was dancing to this song, yes, I was dancing to the opening credits of Bling Ring, and Milo thought that I was a weirdo. So Milo was like, "What are you doing dancing? You're a weirdo." That's what he said. That's what he said with his eyes. Okay. So when he was, all like, all right, he's not appreciating the dance moves. All right, so the final section that I have is on Randall Poster. And though he's referred to as Randy Poster in this podcast. And the podcast that I have for you is called Fight the Dialogue with Randy Poster. And Randall Poster is a music supervisor who has been a music supervisor since the 1990s. One of his first jobs was for Wes Anderson for the film Bottle Rocket, and he's pretty much been the music supervisor for all of Wes Anderson's work, but he has also worked with many other filmmakers as well. So this is him discussing working with Martin Scorsese, who they just refer to him as Marty. So just FYI, when they go, oh yeah, Marty, you know, they're talking about Martin Scorsese. And then they also talk about Todd Phillips, and especially doing the work with Joker. And this really discusses a lot about what a music supervisor does, what Randall Poster has been doing, and also he discusses how he has also been an album producer in addition to having a company called Search Party. So this is a little less than 50 minutes long, but I think it's also an informative video. So you can either pause and watch it right now, or you can watch it at the end. So if you're going to watch it right now, here you go. It does benefit if you watch it beforehand, because it will make some of these clips make a lot more sense. So one of the things that Randall Poster talks about in the video is when working with Martin Scorsese, how Martin Scorsese a lot of times is very fearless in his choices of songs and how he features songs in his films. And in Wolf of Wall Street, when Jordan and Naomi get married, we're at the reception. We've got Sharon Joan and the Dap Kings, and that was one of the things. Okay, they got Sharon Joan and the Dap Kings, and they're actually the wedding band, and they're performing, and you know, it's great. And then we use pre-existing music also in this scene, but it works. And Randall Poster talks about the use of Bo Diddley, but we also have the use of Sir Mix-a-Lot's Baby Got Back. So, yes. And Jordan's dancing in this sequence has been featured in many a meme, and people have changed up the soundtrack and that sort of thing. But here it is from the actual film. So here is how fearless we have Mr. Marty Scorsese and his use of Bo Diddley in the wedding scene. Now, another show that they talk about that is produced by Martin Scorsese is Boardwalk Empire. And they talk about how most of the TV show features music that is period specific to the time of, you know, the 20s and the 30s. The opening music is by a more contemporary band called the Brian Jonestown Massacre. And how they talked about how eventually they were like, all right, we're fine with this. So here is the opening credits featuring Brian Jonestown Massacre for the TV show Boardwalk Empire. All right, and now I have another scene from Boardwalk Empire, and I guess I will say we do have a major character that dies in this scene, but this is further along in the show. But what is notable in this scene is the use of a period specific song and it playing on the radio, and how they're turning it up because someone is going to get killed, someone's going to get shot, and so it's just one of those things where, again, Martin Scorsese overall isn't afraid of turning up the volume on songs, and this is one of those examples of that. So check it out. Though I didn't feature it, the show also features a lot of performances. So you've got contemporary actors performing songs from the 20s and then eventually the 30s. And that's all because of the nightclub that the main character owns, played by Steve Buscemi. So I didn't show you any of that, but that is one of those key things that Boardwalk Empire also featured a lot of musical performances, and that is also part of a music supervisor's job. And we're definitely going to see this in this next sequence for Martin Scorsese's Vinyl. So this also is an HBO series. Boardwalk Empire was a series on HBO that lasted for, I think, 5 seasons, maybe 6. Whereas Vinyl only lasted 1, but had a lot of the same kind of lots of music, because it's about a music executive who owns a record label. Lots of musical performances, and then also people listening to music. So this was chock full of music. It's also produced by Mick Jagger, which also makes sense. But here is the opening credits, and the opening credits features Sturgill Simpson and the song Sugar Daddy, but the song is slightly manipulated to give you the feel of what it's like in the era of vinyl. So check out the opening sequence. Now, the next scene that I have for you from the TV show Vinyl is for the most part, yeah, as I mentioned already, even when a person performs a song, it is the music supervisor's job to get the proper licensing and clearances, and also, work with the performer. That can be part of their job as well, to make sure that it is happening the way that is intended for this scene. And so this is a great scene that utilizes several different songs in addition to an original piece. And also the young guy who is a major character in the show, the young guy that's mostly to to the right of the frame is Mick Jagger's son. So check out this scene. All right, so since we talked a lot about Joker last week, it's probably appropriate to talk a little bit about the music that's used in the film besides the original score. Though Randall Poster does talk a little bit about working with Hildur Gutendaughter for her pieces, and then he does discuss how, and this is something that she mentioned as well, is that some of her sketches for the score was played on set to get Joaquin Phoenix into the mood for his scene. And so we have that we watched that scene last week where he does the dance in the bathroom. Well, yeah, I have a couple other sequences. While he doesn't go into great detail about this, these are songs that are definitely picked out, some of many in the film Joker, that some of these sequences might stand out to you, especially through its use of music. So I have Arthur's transformation. So as he's transforming into Joker, we have the scene featuring Frank Sinatra's "That's Life," and then we have the staircase dance, which features Gary Glitter's "Rock and Roll Part 2." And these kind of go almost back to back in terms of their placement in the film, and really moves our main character from Arthur to Joker. And also great uses of songs in this film. So check that out. I know, you were waiting for the staircase sequence, weren't you? So for those of you that love the film. All right, so the final clips I have from a film that Randall Poster produced, or was a music supervisor for, is Todd Haynes's Velvet Goldmine. And while Velvet Goldmine was not discussed in the interview, it's an important film in the fact that Todd Haynes, who has directed several films. Oh, and I should probably see if, yeah, if he produced the soundtrack to this, which is also a Todd Haynes film. I've got the Velvet Underground soundtrack for the documentary. I'll have to look a little deeper because, of course, the writing on this. Oh, yep, Rainey Poster did do the Velvet Underground. Todd Haynes music supervision. Though a lot of it is Velvet Underground. Fun fact, there is a Bo Diddley song on here. So there you go. Wolf of Wall Street. Not the same song. And the Velvet Underground. I was listening to that earlier, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's a Todd Haynes movie. Okay, I digress. So, Velvet Goldmine is a film that Todd Haynes wanted to do a film on David Bowie, in particular the David Bowie Iggy Pop relationship. David Bowie wouldn't license any of the David Bowie songs to be used in this film. What do you do? So basically, Randall Poster had the challenge of licensing songs by artists that were adjacent to David Bowie of the era that was being featured in the film. So Brian Eno, who is in Roxy Music, also did some work with Bowie. So we've got Brian Eno in here. We do have a Roxy Music in here. And also, since it is, Iggy Pop is also kind of linked in here, we do have some Iggy and the Stooges songs featured as well. But another thing that is fascinating, so I'll just bring down the soundtrack, is the fact that some of the artists that are on here performing some of the songs are so like the backing band of Ewan McGregor's portrayal of Iggy Pop under the name Kurt Wilde. Their band is called Wild Rats, and so Wild Rats is actually members of the Stooges and Sonic Youth that are part of that band. And then we have Venus and Furs, who are kind of like the backing band for Brian Slade, and that's members of many British bands like Suede and Blur, if I get that correct. And then we have a couple cover tunes by a couple artists. So you've got Placebo that does 20th Century Boy, which is a T-Rex song, and and a couple others. So it's one of those things. Oh, and kind of tie in with the vinyl. We have Teenage Fan Club and Donna Matthews of Elastica doing oh my god, why am I totally flaking on the name of the band? And I have the album over here. Oh my god, David Johansen's band. Oh my gosh, I feel like such an idiot. Why am I totally flaking on? Because I know it's just going to say Personality Crisis. It's just going to have it in here as Teenage Fan Club. Okay. Oh my gosh, I feel like I'm losing it. Crisis. New York Dolls. I'm like, as soon as it comes up, I'm going to feel stupid. New York Dolls. So the New York Dolls song, Personality Crisis. New York Dolls is kind of like a major point in the TV show Vinyl. But that song is featured in here, but covered. So why am I going into all this? So how do you do a soundtrack? How do you have a movie that is about David Bowie and Iggy Pop, especially if you can't use David Bowie stuff? So, as I said, used music adjacent. So I have in here, the first clip I have is part 1 of the film, and it's about 15 minutes. You don't have to watch the whole thing. I want you to get to the opening credits portion, which I believe is about almost 4 minutes in. And it features Brian Eno's Needles in a Camel's Eye. And this is playing while a bunch of teenagers are really excited to go see Brian Slade. Brian Slade is the main character. That is the David Bowie-esque character, played by Jonathan Rhys-Meyers. And in the the Jonathan Rhys-Meyers. The teenagers include Christian Bale. And Christian Bale, is one of the fans. But the use of this Brian Eno song towards the beginning of the film really establishes the excitement of a bunch of teenagers going to go see, one of their favorite performers live. So check that out. The next scene we have is a Roxy Music song. And I believe Brian Eno was still in the band when they did Virginia Plain. But Virginia Plain is just is a fun song, and this is used during the high point of Brian Slade's career, and just about when he's going to hire a new employee for his entourage. But the whole sequence shows kind of the making of a promotional movie. So before music videos, there were little promotional films. And so this is Brian Slade and his group doing that. And it's all set to the Roxy Music song, Virginia Plain. So check that out. And then finally, we have a scene where Brian Slade first encounters Kurt Wilde. Kurt Wilde is played by Ewan McGregor. And this is... Kurt Wilde is supposed to be like Iggy Pop. And he does perform an Iggy and the Stooges song TV and so this kind of begins this part of the film that kind of matches the relationship between Iggy and Bowie. And in the real life portion of the story, the inspiration for this is that David Bowie really helped Iggy Pop. Iggy Pop was trying to get clean. They went to Berlin. David Bowie produced a couple albums for Iggy, and Bowie even performed on some of them. Even when they went on tour, David Bowie was part of the tour. I mean, they really established a friendship. And helped each other out. And then eventually David Bowie even recorded one of Iggy's songs, China Girl, when David Bowie became was that when we called it no, that's not when we called him the Thin White Duke, but a little bit later in his career when he was doing Modern Love. So here's a scene where Ewan McGregor is doing his best Iggy Pop, and in case you didn't know, Obi-Wan Kenobi likes to get naked in movies. So if you've never seen some off the beaten path Ewan McGregor movies, he doesn't mind getting naked. And so yeah, at one point, yeah, you'll probably see more than what you want to see. And I shielded you also from Batman. Christian Bale has also a scene that maybe you don't want to think about Batman that way. So if you've seen Velvet Goldmine, it's a really good movie. I enjoyed it a lot. But yeah, got Obi-Wan and Batman in it. Who would have thunk? So yeah, so watch this scene. So while Todd Haynes and Randall Poster had difficulty getting music of David Bowie for Velvet Goldmine, when Todd Haynes wanted to do his film about Bob Dylan, I'm Not There, he was able to successfully get clearance for much of Dylan's catalog. And for the album and for the film, you have 5 different people playing Bob Dylan, including a young black boy. And also, you've got Cate Blanchett, who's on the cover. There she is as well. And you have Christian Bale as well, playing Bob Dylan. So you've got many people playing Bob Dylan. And we also have Bob Dylan songs as recorded by several different musicians. And so it's everywhere from Eddie Vedder, Sonic Youth, Jim James, Richie Havens. You have, let's see, Jack Johnson. You have the Hold Steady, Ramblin' Jack Elliott, Tom Verlaine, and Los Lobos. And then eventually we have Bob Dylan and the band also performing the track I'm Not There. But so most of the film is about Bob Dylan and the myth of Bob Dylan. We feature Bob Dylan songs, but most of it is not done by Bob Dylan. I mean, it's his songs, but other artists are featured in that. And then, as I already mentioned, as I flipped it over here, Todd Haynes was able to do his Velvet Underground documentary that features the music of the Velvet Underground, in addition to some influences. And Randy Poster is able to help Todd Haynes out in achieving this goal. So a music supervisor, their goal is to work with a director, work with a producer on a film, television show, video game, commercial, and work with the musical element. Anything from finding songs to finding songs that performers are going to be performing, working with a composer, working with the people that will be performing, within the film or television show or even video game, to help with licensing and in general helping the musical structure of a production. So I hope that you've learned a lot about what a music supervisor does this week. I know that the podcast and the music supervisor roundtable are long, but I do think it's beneficial. I think of this as more than just the reading, because the reading is pretty short. So, and you haven't had a lot of readings late. And after this, our lectures and everything are going to be a little shorter, not as intense. we're getting ready to wrap things up. So, oh yeah, you do have a discussion board. It's going to be, oh my gosh, on music supervision. So, so make sure that you check that out. But yeah, next week's discussion, next week, I'm going to be talking about Thanksgiving. We'll see how that all turns out. No, you'll be fine. It's going to be very easy peasy. So no readings, just be a little check-in. You don't even have to worry about anything for the following week. So Thanksgiving week is kind of an easy breezy little. It'll be quick. I won't be as long as this. I promise. So, have a good week. Hope you're working on your research project. Don't forget, yeah, you're going to have a discussion board for this, and learn a lot about music supervisors. It's really fun, I think. I don't know. I'm a nerd. All right. Until next time.